If your boss fired you tomorrow, how many months could you survive before you absolutely had to have another employer? Most people have no idea. They just hope it all works out. By the end of this video, you'll know 3 things. Exactly what your monthly life costs, not a guess, a real number, how many months of cash reserve you need before you leave your job, and where can you realistically adjust or cut so you can get there faster. If you want to escape your job on purpose instead of in a panic, you need one thing, a brutally honest financial assessment, and you're the only person who can do that. I'm Eric. I'm a mechanical engineer and auto enthusiast. I escaped the corporate world over 25 years ago when I started my own business. This channel gives you the tools you'll need to leave your job safely and on your terms. To make this easier, I created a free financial escape checklist. It's basically a budget worksheet with some tweaks specifically for planning your 9-to-5 exit. You can download it using the link in the description and follow along as we go. You'll notice this is a thorough list, and that's intentional. I've included every category I could think of so that nothing catches you by surprise. You won't need all of them, but better to have categories you skip than expenses you forget. I also did that to jog your memory about expenses you might be paying without really thinking about it. For example, I'm supporting a couple of creators that I really like. I support them through Patreon. Unfortunately, both of them are dealing with serious health issues and haven't been able to create much, if any, content due to their illnesses. The thing is, while it's not a large expense, I sometimes forget that the funds are automatically pulled from my account now and then. I don't mind, but it's still helpful to remember and account for it. You'll also notice that I've included a column for both you and your partner, if you have one. Your partner could be a life partner or possibly a business partner. If it's your life partner and they're on board with what you're planning and are willing to help you out financially, then you'll have a place to input their numbers. Of course, if you're single, like I am, you won't need the second column and it makes planning a bit easier. If you have a business partner, you can also use the second column for their information. While it's unlikely you'll need every category that I've listed, you may need to make entries I missed. That's why I left a couple of rows extra at the bottom of each category. You'll probably have income or expenses I didn't think of, and so there's room for you to add them in. The other thing you may notice is that I may have organized it in a way that doesn't make as much sense to you as it did to me. For example, I included car insurance in the section for insurance rather than the section for transportation. It makes sense in either category as long as it's accounted for. Go ahead and move it if you prefer it in another area. There's literally no right or wrong as long as it makes sense to you and you get all the numbers in. Now, to get yourself started, you're going to need to gather up your various bills, pay stubs, bank statements, and other financial records. Some line items will be the same amount month to month, but there are others that will vary a bit. For those, you'll want to determine the average monthly cost over the last year and then use that number rather than the latest month's cost. Unless it's just increased, then just use the latest numbers. Okay, let's talk about your current income. I included space for income from 2 different jobs. You might be working 2 part-time jobs or both a full-time job and a part-time job. I hope not, because if you're working much over 40 hours per week, that puts a big dent in the time and energy you'll have available to get your new business off the ground and generating income. Regardless, when filling in these numbers, use after-tax figures, the actual amounts that are deposited into your account at the end of the pay period. That's because this is the income that you'll be working with while building up your reserves. If you've got other income, such as alimony, child support, or maybe even rental income, fill it in here too. If not, just leave them blank. You'll then have your total monthly income figures. Once that's done, you can start filling in your monthly expenses. We'll start with everyone's favorite topic, taxes. Normally, your employer will withhold your tax liabilities and send them to the government. However, once you leave your 9-to-5, that'll be up to you. By the way, it's a good idea to set up a separate account for your estimated taxes. You can use a tax table to determine roughly how much to set aside, and when tax time arrives, you should be able to pay what's owed. If you own your own home, there are likely to be additional taxes that you'll be responsible for, and you probably already know what they are, unless your mortgage loan payments cover them from an escrow account. In that case, I wouldn't worry about what the tax figures are, as they're already included in your mortgage payment. That's not exactly right. It's still a good idea to know what they are, especially if you refinance your home and the tax payments become your direct responsibility. Of course, different areas levy different taxes. In my area, we pay a real estate property tax, a school tax, and a personal tax. Now that last one is only about $10, so it won't break the bank. But the others are substantial. And considering where I live, they're probably cheap compared to other areas. Anyhow, add in whatever yours are because you're going to need to make sure they get paid. The next category I've included is also normally withheld from your weekly paycheck by your employer. We're talking about retirement savings and healthcare savings accounts. Again, once you leave your job, these payments will be your responsibility, assuming you want to keep making contributions to them. When you're initially getting your company rolling, you may want to reduce the amount you're contributing to your various accounts. I wouldn't suggest doing that permanently, of course. However, a short hiatus might be helpful. After the various savings accounts is one category that I could have and possibly should have split up and included in some of the others. It's insurance. And as we all know, there's a bunch of different types. Some of which we're required to have and some that are optional. Some of these might have been paid by your employer through payroll deductions, but just as before, once you leave, these are your responsibility. You'll need to know how much you're currently paying in order to include those payments in your plan. Are there any coverages that can be reduced or eliminated? Also, keep in mind that once you leave your current employer, your health insurance becomes your responsibility. And here in the United States, it is extremely expensive. I'd suggest taking advantage of the COBRA program and finding out what your employer's plan will cost you after you've left. This is often the biggest shock for people planning their exit. COBRA can easily run $600 to $1,200 per month for an individual, and more for families. It's not what's shown on your payroll stubs. Once you've got your various insurance coverages figured out, it's time to account for any debts that you make monthly payments towards. If you're carrying high interest credit card debt, that's going to eat into your cash reserves faster than almost anything else. Things like student loans, child support, and credit card debt all need to be included. And remember that if your income is subject to any sort of wage garnishment, those payments are currently withheld by your employer, and you'll need to pay them even after you leave. While I don't really want to get into strategies for paying off or reducing debt, I will say it's wise to prioritize the higher interest debts and try to get those paid off first. After accounting for any debts, we can talk about housing. The biggest expense in this category is your mortgage or rent. Sometimes it's possible to refinance your mortgage to get a lower interest rate and monthly payment. This would be a good time to investigate what your local banks offer. If you're renting, can you find an apartment that costs less to rent but still suits your needs? You may not be at the end of your lease yet, but if it's possible to rent a cheaper place, you may be able to increase your savings substantially. All of your utilities are included here as well. As always, some will apply and some won't. Are there any here that you can reduce through being more careful with how you use them? Or can you eliminate them entirely? For me, I don't have cable internet at home. I don't spend that much time at home, and it would be a waste of money for me to have that service. Same with the landline I used to have. Like many people, my cell phone has taken its place. And if you aren't forced to pay garbage collection, maybe you can get rid of your trash at a friend's house. Ask if they'll take yours and put it out with theirs in exchange for splitting the bill, or maybe paying them per bag. One of my best friends is forced to pay for garbage collection by the municipality where she lives. She not only gets rid of her own trash, but my trash and that of her business as well. She says she's paying for it, so she's going to use it. If this is helping you get clear on your numbers, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next pan of the escape plan. Now, we've all got to eat, and whether we like it or not, food's getting more and more expensive, and there's very little we can do about it. Even so, we do have choices. If you know how to cook, you can probably spend less per month than someone who has trouble boiling water. My father wouldn't even warm up food in the microwave, let alone boil water. Seriously. Some areas where you might want to cut back would be your morning coffee, if that's your thing. If you can make your own coffee at home, rather than heading to Starbucks, you can probably save quite a bit each month. Same thing for fast food meals, or even dining out at nicer restaurants. Preparing lunches before heading to your current 9 to 5 may save you more than you think. For example, a friend of mine who is actually very frugal was surprised to realize how much he was spending each week getting soft drinks at convenience stores. Once he saw how much he was spending, he stopped and saved the money instead. Now, when it comes to personal care, some of these you simply can't live without, just like food. I can't imagine trying to save money by not bathing or washing my hair. However, others, such as buying new clothes or getting your nails done, might be good places to save money. I'm not all that fashionable when it comes to clothes, and haircuts have become few and far between if you hadn't noticed. I probably should have put this next topic higher on the list: medical expenses. Depending on your health, this can be a small line item or a massive one. Either way, don't ignore it. From copays to prescriptions, from eyeglasses to having your teeth cleaned, you'll want to make sure to have the funds you need to take good care of yourself. Escaping your 9 to 5 doesn't do you much good if you can't take care of yourself. You'll also want to make sure that you have the money to take good care of your children, if you have any. What expenses you need to account for are going to vary based on their age or ages. The checklist has room for 2 kids, so if you have more than 2, you'll have to sell the extra ones off for scientific experiments. And if you get that reference, we can definitely be friends. Okay, well, maybe that's not the best idea. Maybe you can figure out how much you're spending for all of them in each category and put that in. That's probably a better idea. Same goes for pets. We all love our pets, but their care does cost money, and selling them off to save money probably isn't going to fly either. Food, vet bills, even doggy daycare all cost money, and they need to be planned for. Do you have a car? No matter what you do and where you live, your transportation costs need to be included. Do you have a monthly car loan or a lease payment? If not, that's great. Hopefully your car still has plenty of life left in it and you can hold off on getting something new. Either way, if you have a car, you'll still have to pay for fuel and regular maintenance, registration, maybe parking fees and tolls. If you don't have a car, then your expenses might be public transit or possibly Uber or Lyft. I knew a woman who paid for an Uber driver to get to and from work. I'm not sure if she actually saved money that way, but she didn't own a car, and so maybe it was smart. This next topic can be a real eye-opener: subscriptions. If you're paying monthly for any subscription services, it might surprise you how much you're actually spending each year. For that matter, you may very well be paying for subscriptions that you no longer use, as they normally renew automatically. Go through your bank statements and credit card statements to see if there are recurring charges for music streaming services, warehouse clubs, credit monitoring services, etc. And then decide if you want to continue using them. You may find some nice savings by canceling the ones that you rarely or never even use any longer. Since you're doing all this work examining your finances because you want to build a better life for yourself and your family, entertainment is one of the last topics on the list. To succeed, you'll need to devote the majority of your free time to your new endeavor. Now, I'm not saying that you should never do anything for entertainment. Of course not. We all need to unwind and relax at times. However, spending hundreds or even thousands of dollars for season tickets to your favorite ball team is probably not helpful in achieving your goals. The same goes for clubbing or concerts or going out to the movies. When it comes to vacations, maybe keeping your travel closer to home is a good idea. I mean, pretty much every region has amazing things to see, and oddly, it's Often the locals will never visit them. Finally, there's a catch-all space at the end for miscellaneous expenses. I tossed in banking fees, gifts, postage, and storage unit rent. I wasn't really sure where else to put them, and I'm sure you'll come up with others that you'll want to toss in there. Once you've finally got all those expenses input, you'll be able to see what you're spending each month. And at this point, you'll need to decide how many months worth of cash reserves you'll want to have on hand before leaving your job. Now, some folks suggest having 6 months in their account, while others have said to save up at least 12 months. Honestly, that's a personal decision based on your tolerance for risk and how well your new business is doing when you decide to make the jump. We'll cover choosing the right business for you in the next video, but for now, focus on your numbers. At this point, you're probably looking at the number you came up with and feeling like this is totally impossible. I mean, you might even be feeling more stuck than you did before. I get it, I really do. I mean, how could you possibly save that much when you're living paycheck to paycheck? Yeah, it's a great question and is the biggest reason why you need to start your new business before you leave your current job. Do not quit your job first and hope it works out. The income from your new business is what's going to fuel your savings, making it possible to leave. Then, with any luck, your business will have grown enough that you won't need nearly as much of your cash reserves as you planned for. And that's one of the goals, not needing the reserves you saved up. So here's what to do next. Download the Financial Escape Checklist using the link in the description if you haven't done so already. Block out some time, an evening or a weekend afternoon, and fill it out honestly and as completely as you can. Calculate your monthly cost of living and decide how many months of cash reserves you want to accumulate. Look at the categories we just went through and pick 3 places that you can adjust or cut to start moving toward that number. Once you've got your number, don't just sit on it. That number tells you exactly how serious you need to be about building your new business. In the next video, we'll talk about types of businesses you can start while you're still employed so that you're not relying on savings alone when you finally fire your employer. Now, if this was helpful, hit like so more stuck 9-to-5ers can find it, and subscribe to 9-to-5 Escape Blueprint. Let me know in the comments, what's the one expense you're cutting first? Thanks for watching, and start building that escape fund.